So, with the upcoming GDPR regulations being passed and applied in May, PassiveTotal, we wanted to see what would happen if WHOIS information was completely masked off, or the privacy of the users was really being protected, and how we could still apply that as analysts. I ran a query here for CryptoLoot.pro. If I look at the WHOIS record, you can see here that we've MD5 summed all of the values in the WHOIS record, so that we're now just seeing a hash as opposed to the real information. What's interesting about this is that it's not necessarily revealing or leaking any privacy as related to the user, but as analysts, we're still able to make connections since these values are unique. So what we've done here in our experiment is we've MD5 summed everything inside the record. So just looking at it's not going to give us much value. But if we pivot on the email address here, we'll see that we continue to mask it off, and that we're still able to make a correlation between other websites that have been registered using this same email address. As analysts, what we're losing here is the ability to understand what that email address is. And you may notice that we have kept it in the URL bar, but for the sake of demonstration, we're trying to identify here, what it is that we'll lose as we're pivoting around. And so the reality is we're still able to make connections. We can see that there's 28 other websites that have been registered by this user. Many of them look exactly similar to the initial query we ran. If we go back and let's say we do a query on crypto-loot.pro, we can again go back to the WHOIS record, and right away we're not able to get a lot of value. But again, if we pivot on one of these values, let's say the phone number, we can see here that there's actually 27 records, so one less than the email address and what we did before. So as analysts, if GDPR was to force a compliance mechanism that had us hash the values or return some sort of pseudo-unique or anonymous value for the WHOIS record content, we're not completely lost. We're still able to make some of these connections, but there's a lot of nuance that we lose just in the record value itself, mainly understanding that email address and the open source intelligence associated with it, maybe even understanding what the value of the organization was, the phone number, things that could further break open an investigation beyond just connecting pieces of infrastructure. So from our perspective, losing WHOIS or losing WHOIS in this form may not be the end of the world, but will severely limit the ability for an analyst to make much deeper connections or identify potential individuals or forged individual information that would typically net us more analytical leads.